Okay, that's it. Just keep it. Yeah, I know. I'll keep it good picture then.
Thanks, Shura.
Are we leaving? No, okay.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהקל ונהיה בטוח.
אמן.
Amen.
טוב. So this evening we're learning the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe of Parshas Vayetze. Vayetze Yaakov meBe'er Sheva Toshin on Beit. And at that particular year, the Kriyas was that Tes Kislev came out on Shabbos. Tes Kislev was Shabbos Parshas Vayetze. So on the Tes Kislev is the Yom HaShana, the Yortzeit of the Middle Rebbe. The Middle Rebbe was also born on Tes Kislev, which means that the Middle Rebbe has the rare perfection in his lifetime. The day that he was born is the day of his Histalkus. The day after that, which is Yud Kislev, that is the Shalom, Tov. The day after that is Yud Kislev, well, that's the Yom HaGilulah of the Middle Rebbe. That's to say that that's the day that he was freed from his imprisonment, which the first occurrence of that day was the day after he passed away from the world. That means to say that the Middle Rebbe never actually lived any of the Yemei celebrations of the Yemei Geula of his, because he was mistalik on Tes Kislev, I forgot exactly which year it was, and following that was the first anniversary of the day that he'd been let out. And that's why it is that in Lubavitch, until a certain point, it wasn't so well known, Yud Kislev, as a day of celebration, because the first time that it actually became practicable in the Seder of the Teldes Hayomim, it was not able to be kept. Therefore, it was somewhat low-key, very much at the beginning, because it was the day following the Rebbe's Histalkus. That was the first anniversary of Yud Kislev. However, in times after that, gradually it became and in the times of the Rebbeim, like the Rebbe Rasha, the Friedricher Rebbe, and the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, very much so, it became a day of great Geula, Chag of remembrance of the Inyan Geula, somewhat overshadowed by Yud Tes Kislev, but nonetheless with a very big shturem, to use the expression in Yiddish. So the Rebbe begins the Sikha, and tonight is Vov Kislev, Toshin Ayin Ches, Yom Shishi, early Yom Shishi, Vov Kislev, and the learning is taking place in the Knesset, Chabad Tsfat, Bir HaTikah, Yerakodesh Tzfat. So the Rebbe begins with the fact that Eitzel Admorha and Tzui ישנו דבר מיוחד המאפיין עושה. We'll see as we go along that this unusual factor in the lifetime of the Mittler Rebbe is also very typical of what he represented. And we'll see about that solution המאפיין אותו. אז הוא גם נולד וגם נפטר באיזה יום. He was born and he also passed away from the world on the same day, Tes Kislev. ובנסף לכך, חג הגאולה שלו, the Chag of his release from his imprisonment at the end of his life, Chag HaGeula Shalei Chal Miyad L'Macharas Yom HaYiladetoi V'Stalkusei, but that's Yud Kislev. So that's also of interest that the Yom HaGeula follows the day which represents a unusual perfection in a tzaddik that he passed and was born on the same day. It's of interest that it must have some significance that the Yom HaGeula is immediately following that the next day. Mekiven shekol tarik koshur leParshas HaShavua shekoirim az to be klal and brought down in the Shloh HaKodesh. Do we have a klal that whenever we read anything in the Torah, whether it be in the middle of the week or it be on Shabbat, then there must be a connection to what is happening or what is the speciality of that Tariq in a general way with the particular inyonim that occur in the Parshas HaShavua of that time. And that's a klal not only by the big Yomim Tovim, but that is in effect a fixed klal on all times of the year, which means that there must be some connection between Parsha Vayetze and this whole inyan of the fact that the Mittler Rebbe passed away and was born on the same day. So he said, Muvan shel Parshas Vayetze and even Vayishlach. Why? Because Vayishlach is Nikras b'Shabbat to Mincha. We also read Parsha at the beginning of Parsha Vayishlach. Tes Kislev b'Shachris u'b'Mincha. Yesh kesher l'admorim toy. There must be some connection with the general lifetime and the work of the Mittler Rebbe to these two parshas. ניתן ללמוד מהם כיצד לשנג ברוחוי. And we must be able to learn from those two parshas, Parsha Vayetze, and the beginning at least of Parsha, or early in Parsha Vayishlach, how we're supposed to conduct ourselves if we want to live according to the spirit of the Mittler Rebbe, and what he taught us and what he left us, what had he called it, what did he leave over for us in this world. It's further understood that we have to learn from all of these inyanim, both the Mittler Rebbe and Parsha Vayetze and Parsha Vayishlach, and what it's got to do with how we should conduct ourselves, in order that should teach us keitzad lisnai ka'etz. How should we conduct ourselves in the present period? Ka'etz, an expression meaning the general period in which we find ourselves, li'achar shekvar siyamu es kol ha'avodah. Since we're finding ourselves in a period where, as the Friediger Rebbe taught us and has brought in many of his sichos, and the Rebbe brings it on numerous occasions in these times, that the Friediger Rebbe said that all that needed to be done has been done. Everything that Yidden were supposed to do during all the generations, then they've achieved. Everything's ready. But Shrichim Rak L'Kabel Panei Mashiach Tzidkeinu B'Poel Mamish. And all that remains is that Mashiach should come and that we should just receive him. We're all ready. Everything's been done that we need to prepare. All we're going to do is just take him and receive him. So we must say that this factor of the Mittler Rebbe's lifetime and the connection with the Parshas they all teach us about how we should be makabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu b'kol hazman. So he said, "Es amayla b'kach sheyim ha'ptira chal b'yom ha'heiloda," or the special advantage that there is in the fact that the day of one's passing happens to come out also on the day of the birth. Yeah, Moitzi Manu b'Gemara, we find it brought down Mafuri in the Gemara, in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph, it's brought down, and also we find it in the Gemara, Masechta Soita, and also in another place in Shas, it's mentioned in Masechta Kiddush, it's also brought down. In other words, it's a dover, mover kama pamim b'divrei Chazal. And what is that? Al divrei Moshe, that Moshe Rabbeinu said right at the end of the Torah. He said, Ben Maya ve'esrim shono onechi hayoim, and he said, I can't go in and out anymore, and therefore I'm leaving everything in the hands of Yeshua. He could have just said, I'm already 120 years. Why did he have to add the word hayom? Why did he have to say it was today? He could have just said I'm 120, so who knows, I don't really know what's going to be. Whatever, I'm passing it into the hands of Yeshua. So he says, Mulba, Shemoshe Amoshe Ba'esi Yom Malu Yom Avoshneiso, that it was Davke on that day, that all of his days were full up literally on that time. U'Mesayim Gemara, and the Gemara completes the statement of assuming what Moshe Rabbeinu meant by saying, Lelametcho, it comes to teach you, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yeshev Umamalish Neiseihem Shal Tzadikim Miyoim Leyoim, and also Michodesh Le, it's written there in the Gemara, that the Eibishter sits specially and pays special attention to the great tzaddikim davke, and he fills their days and their years from one day to the other. And that is the pshat of that lashon, brought down in the Meforshim, that means on the day which they were born, that's the day they pass away, and Hashem fills it all up in a way of completion. And that's the lashon mamali. He completes their years. Kalima, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doyeg. He pays special attention. Shatzadikim yichyu mispashonim ogu u'meduyak. That the Eibishter wants that the tzadikim should live a very precise round number, not a sort of cut number, but a complete round number, which means an exact calculation of their lives, in a way that is very meduyak. Kenema, yes, mispar yomecha amalei. In Parshas Mishpatim, it's brought down that the Eibishter says, I will fulfill or make complete the days of your life. And so the Gemara teaches, what does that mean? This idea of filling up on an exact round figure. So the Rebbe says in the Shelet HaShaila, asks itself the question, what sort of a special maila is it that a person comes into the world and then he lives a certain number of years and he passes away on the same day? What sort of special maila is there in that? And especially by a tzaddik. What a tzaddik's whole life is ruchnias, as the Alter brings in Tanim, in Geras HaKodesh, in chapter 27, in reference to the life of a tzaddik, is purely Ava v'yira ve'emuna, Chaim ruchniim. That's what the Alter said. A tzaddik lives in a way that he's only concerned with Devekas and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through emuna and through Ava v'yira, and through kiyama mitzvahs, b'shleimas. But what does he care? Exactly what day he came into the world or what day he leaves the world. Why would that be important to a tzaddik? Because that's a sort of a gashmis. It's a worldly consideration. L'chira, a tzaddik's in another world. He doesn't have to do with such thing. So the Rebbe says, Harei HaChaim HaMitim Shel HaTzadik Ein Chaim Ruchniim. Well, that's what's put down there in Tanya, in the Geras HaKodesh. Nishmosiyim, they're all to do with these neshama. Ve'ein lezeh shum kesher lemispa shonim hakashmiyat hamediokes shehu yichya. What does it bother him how long he's going to live? He's got to be the whole time busy with the Inyanim Ruchniim. V'ochein ro'inu es rova tzadikim. If we look at most of the great tzadikim, Sheim ochein lo chayum mispashonim meduyak v'ogel. They sort of passed away on a different day than when they came into the world. It wasn't all so carefully worked out. So it would seem that it's not something essential to a tzaddik. It doesn't have to be, because great tzaddikim al pi rov didn't have this. So why is it nonetheless that the Gemara considers it a very special inyan? What would it matter to a tzaddik? Atshuva l'chak, says the Rebbe, what is the answer to that question? Nochin amnam, it's true, nonetheless it happens to be right, that Chai HaTzadik, ha'amitim eim ruchnim. That's eman, nachon. Aval, avidosei hoifeches lemushlemas davke. But not only it's a perfectly, how to call it, a spiritual life, but he's awaited to Hashem, takes on a completely new, hoifeches means like it becomes changed and reversed into a new perfection. Mushlemas means a new perfection. Davke kashehu matzliach lezachek es gufay ve'ezagashmi shaloi. Davke when he's matzliach, not just to live Chaim Ruchniim, but he makes also that the power of his neshama and the power of his Chaim Ruchniim also affect his body. In other words, that a tzaddik lives a perfection, a balance between his neshama and his guf. And the whole work of his neshama is to purify his body in such a way, well, we'll see as we go along in Mashiach, that the two should reach a perfection of balance, one to the other, that one is a vessel to the other. The body is just like a vessel to the neshama, and maybe even more than that, maybe even a complete union. So therefore, says the Rebbe, that's what a tzaddik comes into the world for. He comes in to purify the Gashmis, and especially his own body. Davke kasher Gashmis shaloi, hoifeches lehem shech echad, shel chai v'ruchniim, he can be very high, but that his avodah should be perfect and it should reach a climax. Well, that's davke when the Gashmis and the Ruchnis have reached a perfect balance and a perfect, what you might call, appropriation, one to the other. The world is made up of two main big factors. How do you determine a created world, not a world of Elokus, but a created world is in the two inyonim, Zmanu or Mokim. As it's brought down in many places in Siddhas. And the Rambam talks about it in Mishmaina Prokim, he said, V'shona koilelis es kol shinui hazman. He said the idea of Shona, of a year, well, that has in itself all the changes of time. A full change of time includes the 4 seasons, and summer, and like it's put down in Parshas. And when you go through that, then you start a new year. Or once you've had all the different changes in time, that's a year. Vayetze sheshona shleima mivates es hashleimas agashmiyas. Azim Kain, a year indicates the perfection of all the Gashmis factors in time. When you live through a full year, from one day to the other, from the, let's say, Rosh Hashanah till the next Rosh Hashanah, then you've been through everything that's possible that can be given in the changes in the physical world of time. And therefore, since that's the case, it's very important for a tzaddik, it's important that he should live a full and round and perfect number of years. But that points out that he's reached also shleimas in the ruchniyas, in the sense that what is the purpose of his coming into the world of Jim is to affect the physical world. So he has been affected in a perfect and balanced way. It reflects itself or misbates and expresses itself. It's not enough for him to have the perfection in Ruchnias and cut himself off from the Gashmias, but the Gashmias becomes like a vessel, and even higher than that, it becomes like just a continuation and a linkage in perfection with his Ruchnias. They both have the same, what we call in Yiddish, a Ganzkeit. Ganzkeit means perfection, or like appropriate perfection together. But Shleimus Gashmias. So it's put down in that same Gemara in Masechta Rosh Hashanah that the three forefathers were like that they were born also on the same day, or mamish within days of their day of passing. And the forefathers are the founders of the whole Jewish people. They set up the whole 12 tribes and everything, and that's the basis. The Gemara says that ain't koyin la'ovesh ela shloisha. Forefathers, there's only three. There's a lot of important people after that, the Shvatim. Of the forefathers, there's only three. So he said, if we look carefully in the Gemara, then we find that they also, the forefathers, they were the same, they passed away on the same day, or pretty much as what they were born. So therefore, and also Moshe Rabbeinu, So that's what he said. Where are we? I've lost the place. Oh, here we are. That was by the forefathers. They all passed away in the same month. They were born in Nisan, they passed away in Nisan. Is albeit not mamish on the same day, but in the same month. That's what the Gemara brings down, both by Avraham Avinu and by Yitzchak and also by Yaakov. Eitzel Moshe Rabbeinu shenolad v'nifta b'zayin oda. The Gemara says over there that Moshe Rabbeinu was born and he was nifta on Zion Oda. V'eitzel Moram Tori, and here's another case is where Moram Tori fits that same pattern. And how does he sort of fit into the pattern of all these great founders of the Jewish people? So he said because the Middle Rebbe was the Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation. Since he was the Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore he had. That asks a question, what about other great tzaddikim that they were Moshe Rabbeinu in their generation? So the Rebbe answers on that. The Rebbe got a big long footnote. And the Rebbe is mitpalpel, he writes a whole pilbul in Vayetze Lezeh, and he says that you can't really tell by a great tzaddik. It could be that a person like the Alter Rebbe, for example, he finished off in a few months what was really a whole year. In other words, he packed into the little bit of the coming year that he still had, all the rest of the year. Or we could say another possibility, that they're so great that the Abishah gave them some extra time, that they completed everything, and then the Abishah had to put in, for good measure, a few extra days. That's what the Rebbe says. He never lets anything pass. So therefore, says the Rebbe, since the Gemara uses a very special expression. It says the Eibishter sits and he's mamali shnei tzayim, muvan shekol tzadik zeker l'sleima zu, gam himulo nifta b'tarik leido. So we have to say that all the other tzaddikim, they get it even if they're not nifta on the same day. B'zois b'shnei eifanim. And here it's of interest. Usually they don't write the footnotes into over here. They put in a little piece from one of the footnotes. He said, "V'zois b'shnei eifanim, oy biglal shebamispa yomim muad, hu kwa hishlim aveda shoshona shlema," like I just said, one possibility, or another, oy mipnei shebeneisav l'shneisav amushlomeis, hu kibel oid kamayomim b'matana. Here the Eibishter gave you some extra days, even though he'd already completed everything. Says the Rebbe, Avu Shleimus Noisefet, V'gluya Yoseh, Yesh lo tzadikim, shepetirosum tolu, chalo v'gashmias, b'yem lo dasam. So, ain't noch a number of other tzadikim, it's not for galui, you have to say that's the pshat, and you have to understand it and put it into your mind. Or for somebody who has it for galui, then that's a perfect sign that he has that shleim. And so the Mittler Rebbe, he has that, which means that the Mittler Rebbe, the Neshama and the Guf, are all one Yichud Shalem. That whatever he was in Ruchnias, that's what came out in here. I mean, that's the general message of the whole thing. And that's going to be like the central theme now of all that we're going to learn in the Sikha. And we're going to see it comes out in quite an amazing picture that the Rebbe paints Beneget to the Parsha. ניתן להבחין, it's possible to distinguish and to look carefully שהסיפורים על יעקב אבינו נמצאים בעיקר בפרשותינו. Even though Yaakov Avinu is mentioned quite a lot in Parshas Toldos, and he's also mentioned in Parshas Vayishlach and Parshas Vayetze, and even into Vayigash and everything, he's mentioned. But if we look at all the main sort of details, in detail of things he did, that's in this week's Parsha. But to get to his life in the previous Parsha was only brief. Over here we're told he went out, he met up with Laban, and he married Rachel, and Leah, and then he married Rachel, and this, and all the things with the flocks, and with the, he fled from Laban, and Laban ran after him, and then he wanted to go back home, and then he went part of the way, and then Minekas passed away, and this and that. That's a whole series of detailed sipurim, very much. So the Rebbe said, in Parsha Vayetze, the majority of the Sipurim about Yaakov occur. He said of Parsha Vayishlach also, there's a lot in detail. Kasher Yaakov hoya b'chutzalo. So he said if you look carefully, you see all these long stories, which are the main part of what the Torah says about Yaakov Avinu, all happened outside Eretz Yisrael. Haran, where Laban was not a particularly enviable sort of place for a guy like Yaakov Avinu to be. Ve'ilu b'Parshat Toldos k'sheYaakov hoya be'Eretz Yisrael b'koshim masupa alav. And Parshat Toldos not told very much, and then he was in Eretz Yisrael. So we find an interesting thing that even though Eretz Yisrael is shaloi be'erech Chayim, and a great person like Yaakov, his weight in Eretz Yisrael would be very high. No, we don't get told much about that. The whole long arichas in the Torah about Yaakov Avinu's efforts, it's after when he's in Chutz La'aretz. Yevadova Tamua, and that's a wondrous thing, because Yedua sheYaakov hu amuv chashaviyov. The Mishnah, the Medrash, brings down that, and also in the Zohar Kodesh, that Yaakov Avinu is called the Bechir Shebe'ovis. They called the chosen one of all the forefathers. Ve'ek yitochen, how does it make any sense? Sha'torah tishyach is davke la'sokov im lovom ve'esav harshoim. Write that Bekitzer, that's the unpleasant part of his life. Write that Bekitzer and write Barichas, what happened to him in Eretz. So we see exactly the opposite. The whole Arichas is about what he did with Lovan and with Esav. So he said, Harbe Yeza Matim, L'Shachas Lavi Doisa Akadoisha Beretz HaKodesh. Let's see what happened. He said, no, Kavishim Masupa, Al Avram Vayetze. If you look carefully in the Torah, the majority of the stories about Avram Vayetze, and particularly Yitzchak, are only in Eretz. He was told by the Eberster, don't leave Eretz Yisrael. Avamela, that seems to make sense for great people like that. Yaakov Avinu, what he's the choice of all the others, all the most Arichas, is talking with people like Lovan and Esau. Vayez b'lekachu shebesipa al halikas Yaakov l'chonon. In telling the story of how Yaakov went to Choron, and he's meeting up with Lovan Esau, Torah melamedes eisanu ketzad tzarich lisnahig kishemisaskim im ha'olam. Rov neshamas come down into the world and they have to face the world. Yeah, they have to do with the world. So having to do with the world is like being outside Eretz Yisrael. When you're sitting in the base of Medrash or you're doing high things, that's Eretz Yisrael. When you're out there in the world, you got to make it, and you got to bring panasa, and you got to bring up children, and they go to Indian. So that's like being in Chutz La'aretz. So therefore the Torah tells us what Yaakov had to do in Chutz La'aretz, because that's what tells us in a direct and intimate way what we got to do in the world. How do we have to act in the world to get through all the trials and tribulations of living in a Gashmi and even Chumri world. So he said, Sipozeh, shehinoi harishin, b'Torah, ametayer zavidas ha'ovis ha'kedeshim ba'ilom, Davke Bo'ilom, in the physical world, not in Eretz Yisrael, but Davke Bo'ilom, Bo l'lamed sheyesh shlav achrei shlav, stage after stage, keitzer olenu liznaheg, ukenema ma'isa oves siman le'bonim. The deeds of the forefathers are assigned to the children, and they like an indication of how you're supposed to act. And so the Ramban writes in Parshas Lech Lecha that statement of the Medrash, Ma'isa Ovid Siman Labonim, means that it's not just like a sign, what you should do, but it's a giving of power and a giving of strength and inspiration that you should be able to face this papoyo and be matzliach. So therefore we're told this whole arichas, because we got to know how to deal with the Lovans. Each one of us has got our own Lovan, and each one of us has got to meet up with the world and the physical world. And we don't sit around the whole time. Halavai that we could. We don't sit around the whole time in the base of Amedr. I mean, there are a few chosen people that do, but the majority of people don't. So therefore, Vayetze Yaakov meber Shovah. Says the Rebbe Mesamel, that is symbolic. As a Yitzias Neshama Mimedrigosa Hagavoy Elamayla. He said, Yaakov goes out of Beersheba is a symbol of the coming down or the going out of your Neshama from its very high level, how it is Lamayla, Hamuchuna Beersheba. And the Rebbe brings down, it's brought down in Drushech Siddhar, that Beersheba is indicatory of very high level in the Esa Spirit. It's what's called the Spirit Abina. And it's called Beersheba because it's like the well which leads to the seven. And the seven are the Midas. And it's well known, the Shur of the Midas is in Bina. But Bina is in Kova, we are higher than the Midas. It's the Inyan Amoichin. So that's the Inyan from Beersheba. Yaakov Avinu was in, and Yitzchak was in Beersheba. His father, who was a very great Kohen, was there. So he was in the most perfect, just like the neshama is, l'mayla, before it comes down. So Vayetze, Yankee goes out of Beersheba and he comes down into Haran. So the Rebbe said, Vayelech Harona Mesamares Yeridis Neshama Le'elam Koi Shofel, so far down, Hagurem LaKodesh Baruch Hu Haron V'Kaz. And therefore Haron means Haron Af, and Haron Af means anger. So who's angry is the Ebershter. The Ebershter doesn't like Haran. He doesn't like what goes on there. So nonetheless, the neshama has to come down into Haran. Neshama comes down into a place which is really the anger. Yes, the Ebershter's displeasure. Yeah, Lamrei Zois, Bo'ifim Maftia. Which is surprising, but that's how it is. It's precisely there, in that place, Heikim Yaakov Avinu Davki Shom B'Charon is by Beis HaNe'eman. That's one on that all the children of Yaakov Avinu are all the great tzaddikim. Yeah, and he managed to preserve the most amazing kedusha within the basic family of the whole Jewish people, davki in a place like Haran. When you think about it, it is very amazing. Shnei Masa Shvatim Kedoshim, 12 holy tribes he had when he was in Haran, except for Binyamin. Binyamin was born there, so. Ezbalakahu Shiyanki Gilo Be'emtzaus HaTorah V'HaMitzvahs Es Oyer Nishmosei. Yaakov Avinu wasn't disposed from all those inyonim, and by his efforts, like it's brought in the Gemara, the forefathers kept all the Torah. By his efforts in what he knew to be Torah and the mitzvahs that he had, he was worried about his neshama. Yaakov Avinu bothered, first and foremost, what is his shlichus in this world going to get to his neshama. Ubekach, and by worrying about his neshama, uzichach es gufoi, and through that he purified his body. In other words, the way to purify your body is to emphasize your neshama. And if you give yourself over to your neshama, then your body will follow suit. Yeah? We're going to see a very interesting example of that in a minute. When Yaakov Avinu was frightened of the highest roads at night time, when he lay down there in the field, what did he do? He covered his head, but he what's with the rest of the body? He covered his head, because if you go into your head, that's where the neshama has its main effect. Then that affects all the other inyonim and brings them in a way that they're protected. So he says, Zichek es gufei v'svivosei v'kiddush, and his whole environment, he sanctified them, and he made them into holy things. U'dazu merumezet b'milim vayelecha rono. That fact that Yaakov Avinu did all that is hidden in the expression that he went to Haran, but it's not written Vayelech li Haran. It's written Vayelech Harono. So Harono is a usage in Lashon Kodesh of saying he went to the place, but it doesn't say he went to the place. So the Rebbe says, Davki b'Haron hu holach. Vayelech Harona. Yelech means the idea of hiluk, and hiluk means incomparable progress. Because if you here and you go over there, then you call it hiluk. But if you stay in the same place, even though you might have a little bit of aliyah here and there, but you're still in the same place. But if you go, that's called hiluk. So Vayelech, Yaakov Avinu Davki got hilika from where from? Going to Haran. Davki b'Haran who is to lay Yosef v'Yosef. Therefore the Rebbe said it's not written li Haran. Because if Yaakov was going to Haran, it would appear that he was just going there and who knows what's going to happen. But if we say he went, and the name of the place plus a hey, So he said the Hey is the main letter of the holy name that the Rebbe creates the world. I'm sorry, the Eibishter that creates the world, right? So that's the Kei Achrona of the Shem Havaya. And that's the life force of the world. So what Yaakov Avinu did, he turned Haran into a place that reveals who created the world. In other words, he made it, that's why it's written Harono and not Lich Haran. If it would have been written Lich Haran, it might imply that Haran swallowed up Yaakov Avinu. Or if we say Vayelech Harana, he was the one who got Hilo from coming to Haran. You follow? Why? Because he was Megala, the Kei Achrona in Haran. That's what the Rebbe says in detail. That's Mamish Philip Floyd. So he says, Yosem Mikach, even more than that. Loirak Nishmosai Hochova also. And not only just his Neshama went and had an aliyah over there in Haran, Elagam Haran Atzmo is Dachachavit Katsha. Yeah, so the Rebbe said he not only affected his Neshama in such a way that had a big aliyah, but he had an effect also on his whole sphere, like we said before. And he changed Haran into a better place. In other words, that if you devote yourself to the right things, then it doesn't matter where you are, you end up being the Beit, not the places the Beit. So he said, V'lochein kuva yelech Haran v'loi licharon. Remez noisa. This is in addition to what we just said. B'mila Harana, Yaakov Gila b'Haran. Yaakov revealed in the place of Haran as a koyach eloki shabaro, it's a ha'oras kei shabo, nivra ho'ilam. That Yaakov Avinu, apart from affecting Haran in a general way, he revealed the whole inyan of who created and what runs the whole world in a place like Haran. Avamela, he went into Haran, or not that he went to Haran. he affected Haran, and he got hiluk from that. Not he just went into Haran. It's amazing business. So he said after that, the Torah mitayeres shebederech Haran, shoko, Hashemesh, veYaakov Avinu holok lishon. So here we got Yaakov Avinu coming out of Beersheba, and he goes for 14 years into base Sheva Eva. And what does Rashi say? He never slept over there. Yeah, he never slept. And also Rashi says later, when he came to Yaakov, to Lavan, he also never slept because he was so worried about the flocks that he didn't want to go to sleep at night. Yeah. That's what he said. Right? So Kunta said Yaakov, was a guy, a person that he was able to be mistader, or at least in the most minimal way. Yeah. And all of a sudden here, where he's coming out, all of a sudden the base of Mikdash is miraculously centered, like Rashi says. Davki there, Yaakov didn't have to go to sleep. It's written that he lay down and he went to sleep. So the Rebbe says, isn't that a rather remarkable business? That Davki here, after all these years of standing, Davki at this most climactic moment in his whole life, then he went to, he lay down to sleep. So the Rebbe said, we have to find out what does that come to teach. Loi lifnei yeshuaniach tachas, I'm sorry. Loi lifnei, and he didn't go to sleep until he put underneath, he said, avonim. And avonim indicate a starkheit, how do you call it? A toike, a stone is hard. B'dei lahogim al atzmei yemichayos rois. You have to look after him. So the Rebbe says Kakam Eitzel Koliud, so the Rebbe's Mefalpo over there, why did he put Be'ika around his head? You know, so that's the question. So the truth is that some of the great Meforshim, even in Rashi, what Rashi talks big about the head, they learned that in Ramsey he put stones around his whole body, but he paid special attention to his head. So the Rebbe said, okay, he put around his whole body, put around his head in particular, but he said the highest rise could just jump over stones, unless he covered himself entirely with stones. The highest rise would be able to just jump over the stone. So from all that it would appear that Einoch Haname, according to certain reports, it could be he put stones around the rest of his body, but there's a special emphasis in the Torah that he did around his head. So what does that help him? What does it help that he protected his head? So he says, Kaka might call Yehudi, Kasher Nishoma Yoredas La'ilam, Yesh Helem Al Gil Elakut. When you come down into this world, you run into a place which hides Elikus. You don't see Elikus. So that's like the sun goes down. He said, Zeh goyim loy, lishkov lishon. That's killer that he's going to sleep. Like what he's had in there, that's why he's gone to sleep. So he said, Yerida kol kach namucha ad she'arosh va'regel shelo Nasim Shovim, and Ad Kirikat, and he lays down, and he lays down. So he said, when you lay down, then your head and your feet are on the same. Your head and your feet are on the same level. When you lay down, there's no difference between your head and your feet. So he says, so Rosh Hashanah Shaloi Nasim Shovim, Yevahu Avchorik Lachshoish Mikomane Chayas Rois Amazikim Lenishmosei. And you also got to worry that now you're in this world, who knows, if you're not careful, then Hadikot Mazikim can get you, Hadikot Dvorim Lotovim can get hold of you. He said, Avodav Kiseh, Mashakoyram Roy, La'alis, Achrechak La'aliyah, Gavoya, Ad Yesem, Mashahoya Lifnei, Gavisha Nerahana. The Rebbe said, Avodav Kiseh, that fact that he lays down here, and he killer goes to sleep. Davka from that, he comes to all the shlemas of the Aliyah of his neshama, what it reaches, even greater than what it did before it came down. So ask yourself the question, what is so great if you go to sleep and kill your sheikhel, b'mokim avu, just like Yaakov Avinu did. So he says, the Rebbe says to us like this, that the truth is that from one side of it, when you lay down, that's like a Yerida, and therefore when you're asleep, you're a bit of a goylem. You don't really know what's going on. Yeah? So mitzad echad, it's a Yerida. Ein nachanami. Although mitzad sheni, your head and your feet and your middle, every part of you, is all ba'ashwa echad. It's all at one equality. So the Rebbe said the upper part of the body indicates ruchnias. The lower parts of the body indicate gashmiya. So he said, when you're laying down, gashmis and ruchnias are absolutely equal. Yeah, you're all on one line. So he said, by whom is gashmis and ruchnias absolutely equal? By whom is that?
Moshe.
By the Eibusher. Hashem, only by Hashem, Gashmis and Ruchnias are absolutely equal. And he said, not by Hashem, how he's limited in the different worlds, but in the very essence of Hashem, how he is, then everything is equal. Yeah. Later, when the Eibusher mitzamtzem, he makes a tzimtzum, then Ruchnias and Gashmis have different levels. Of in front of the very essence of Hashem, everything is equal. So he said, what Yaakov Avinu did, that he laid down, and it teaches that he was mavatli himself to the very essence of Hashem. And he said, listen, Hashem, I put myself entirely in the hands of Atzmas, the very essence of Hashem's there. Hashem looked after him, and there was no chayas rois, there was nothing to be worried about anymore. What about the stones? So all the stones have a fight as to who's going to Yaakov in it. The stones also join in, and they become part of the Ruchnias. And the stones are very opposite than Ruchnias. They are like the starkite of not Ruchnias, and they all had a fight. Rashi brings it. Rashi says that they all fought together. Who is going to have the schus that Yaakov Avinu put his head down on them? Eugene. They had a squabble. Is a siman that the strength of Eilam Hazeh joined in and became Ruchnias. And they not only Ruchnias, but Even Achat, which is Achtus Hashem. That's the Achtus of the Eibishter. So it's a siman that depends how you see things and how you approach things. That if you really see what laying down means, then you can gain the greatest of aliyahs from laying down. Therefore, Yaakov Avinu, Davki at that moment, chose to lay down, even though in other places he never laid down. Davki at that moment. And that's, says the Rebbe, that's the whole union of the Beis HaMikdash. In the Beis HaMikdash, it brought down in Siddur, was Meir Atzmas Ein Sof. Therefore, in the Holy of Holies, everything was equal. There was an Orion that took up so much place, but the Gemara said it didn't take up any place. In other words, everything was just equal. It was there and it wasn't there openly, begalui. And that's the Beis HaMikdash, or the Beis HaMikdash, as it were, unifies everything into one simplicity of absolute bittul to a Kodesh Baruch. And that's what Yaakov Avinu got out of laying down. Of Amela, what does that indicate? Well, that indicates that the Gashmias and the Ruchnias become like on one level because they're bottled to Hashem. So he said that takes us back to what we said at the beginning, that the Mittler Rebbe made that his Gashmias and his Ruchnias were all together. So the Rebbe says there are two ways that we can look at that. One way is that we can say the guf becomes a kli. It becomes like a vessel, and therefore it takes all the ruchnias and joins with it a little bit. But nonetheless, a kli is not the oyer, and the oyer is not the kli. And a kli is like a avu begin a dover hamastir k'tzat. It's still a little bit mastir. But he said the Mittler Rebbe made that his guf and his neshama were all like one hemshech. It was all like one continuation, and they all joined together in one achdut. That his guf and his neshama, but how to call it, oneness. Therefore, they say about the Mittler Rebbe that because he heard some unfortunate things about his chassidim, it dried his whole arm out. His whole arm was affected by it. He had a bad arm because he heard some unfortunate things about his chassidim. And it dried up his whole arm. In other words, and all sorts of things like that. By the Mittler Rebbe, the Ruchnis and the Gashmias was all one thing. It was like all one Indian. And that's why when he went to the imprisonment and he got ill, the only way that he got better was if he said chassidus. But if he hadn't said the chassidus, he would have been ill the whole time. And it took a Jewish doctor. They brought all the big doctors, and they couldn't figure how they're going to treat the Mittler Rebbe. They didn't want him to die, that's for sure. And therefore they started to look out because they didn't want the whole thing to blow up. They knew the whole thing was not based on proper legal and thing. And they didn't want it to blow. So they wanted to heal the Mittler Rebbe, and they couldn't figure, he doesn't react to any of the injections or any of the medicines. He just kept getting worse the whole time. And then all of a sudden there was a Jewish doctor, a Yid, a doctor, they called him. He sort of took a look at the Mittler Rebbe, and he was very clever. He was he said, you have to call in a minion of these guys, the Chassidim, And you have to let him say what he says. You have to let him say, and you say, every 2 days they used to let him sit him, and on Shabbos, a big, and the middle of the road would say a maimah. Every few days he said a maimah, long maimah, and he got better. It was incomparably better. So they said to the Jewish doctor, you're a bit of a genius. How did you heal him? He said, you have to have an iron, to examine carefully your patient. That was the story then. Mamela says, the Rebbe, that's the whole message of Yaakov Avinu. And how did he beat Esau? Also with the same principle. He just went that everything is only the Eibishter and Einoid Muvade and Mela. Esau came running, he saw that, and he gave Yaakov Avinu a course. Rashi says that he actually meant it at that moment. Maybe other times not, but at that moment he didn't. Why? Because Yaakov Avinu said, I've been in Beis Love and I've done all this, and so I'm holding by, Gafni, Ruknias, all one thing, So Esau took one look at that and he just, he collapsed. No longer any Esau.
Remember, he kept bowing down.
Yeah, that Yaakov Avinu was bound to the Shekhinah. So it's put down in the Medrash that he didn't bow down to Esau, he bowed down to the Shekhinah, which had been mitgaleh etzlo. The Shekhinah was mamish with him at that moment, for the reasons I just said. You follow? And he bowed down to Elokus, not to Esau. He didn't pay attention to Esau. I say that's brought down in the Medrash. Yeah.
Moshe Rabbeinu also bowed down.
He didn't bow down to Esau, he bowed down to the Shekhinah. Yeah. And therefore it's written, well, who overall is Nahum?
No, Moshe Rabbeinu.
Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu, the same thing, yeah. When Moshe Rabbeinu heard the Basura Teva, that David was ready to forgive the Yidden, he bowed down completely. And we find by Eliezer the same thing. Eliezer, when he heard that Rivka would go with, he bowed down.
And he
absolutely.
He was born and he died.
Before that, when he saw her the first time, he bowed down. So the Alter Rebbe says in the Siddur that because of the great Gilei Elokus, the union of the Shemban, which is the same thing as what we're talking about here, Eliezer bowed down. Yeah. And the Alter Rebbe talks about it in the Siddur, Davki in the Siddur. There's a whole piece about it. But that's it, guys. It's amazing stuff. So that's the whole message of this whole Sikha, that you've got to be like the so if you're like that, then the Eibishter fills your days. The Eibishter especially fills up your days, and everything reaches a complete perfection between the Gafni and the Rukni. And so that's all one expression. That's all one has, and there's no dichotomy anymore. So there you got it. I'm terribly sorry I didn't have time, but I will take care of it. But I've been swamped on that.
Was Yaakov right to go back for the Pachim Ktanim?
Oh. That's another one. What did he go back for the Pachim Ktanim? But Fortan and Siddhas, despite all the immense Aveda which Yaakov Avinu did, he saw that there was still a few little things that he hadn't finished yet. There were a few little inyanim that still needed to be purified. So he saw that they could possibly be disturbing his ultimate aim of purifying the whole world. It's brought down and says that because of all what we learned here, Yaakov Avinu was going for Moshiach. Yaakov Avinu wanted Moshiach. You know the whole story, the whole Aricha. That he wanted to bring the world to the perfection that's going to be in the Geulah Shlem. So he realized that these little things that he still hadn't finished, they can be the general picture that didn't put him out of something. But they can be the ultimate perfection of Moshiach. It could be those things might get in the way. So therefore he went back specially to take care of it. Especially to the Navarro, those To purify those.
Because the Jew always likes going into the small money, the kleine geld.
Yeah.
The Jew likes making a fuss. The smaller the object, the bigger the fuss.
So you can say in a way that that's what Yaakov Avinu was busy at. But it was small money, but big time. Yeah. So what do we learn from this? My Mashpia says that the whole Siddur talks about 2 or 3 points. There's unbelievable literature of all the Rebbeim to explain to us 2 or 3 points. And the Shara Yichud, for example, if you look at the elder Rebbe goes back and forth, he's all just trying to teach me that the world is bottled to the edge. It's not really there. Wow, does he spend a lot of time telling me that? Oh, that's what it is, a very simple point. And there's no real world there. In order to teach that to you, you have to say it in a lot of detail.
In addition to the Gashmius and the Ruchnius being together, heard the Alter Rebbe, when he cut his finger, when the Alter Rebbe cut his finger, it wasn't blood that came out.
Not the Alter, the Middle Rebbe.
The Middle Rebbe.
Yeah.
There's no blood.
The Tzemach Tzedek said that if you would cut the finger of the Middle Rebbe, there wouldn't be any blood. There would only be it wouldn't go out any blood. Only Chassidus. In other words, that his whole body was only accepted. And that's what we're saying now.
That's kind of the...
Exactly that.
Okay,
10 marks.
These are called Berea chips, and these are Atzilus chips, and these are
10 marks.
Yetzirah chips.
What's that mean?
That's what we're talking about. Okay? And this is
thanks
this
you.
Is Malchus, this is Malchus Techina.
I see you're making a good effort. Thank you. This is Adoma.
I have a greeting here from Rabbi Mendy Greenstein. Rabbi Mendy Greenstein.
Greenstein?
Yeah. Mendy Greenstein. It says his warm regards.
Mendy Greenstein?
Ken. He says hello.
Yeah, he's the son of Yankov Green.
Okay.
Yankov Greenstein, I know him.
Yeah, he's listening and saying hello.
Yankov Greenstein was a Talmud of mine. Ex years ago.
Amen.
The Shabbos in this year, like the whole next spectrum for going to Shabbos.
I thought that was coffee, but that's wine. I thought that he poured from this into this. That's wine. Boros, I told him, my God, I hang Vayetze prayer Gafni. So, but I will get round to it. I still have the room.
Yes.
I just apologize.
I want to know, is that a regular sikha or a special sikha?
Yeah.
That's
Basically. Aye.
This is Nun Aleph or Nun Beis? Nun Aleph or Nun Beis?
Am I Aleph or Beis?
Yeah.
Is tonight's Sikha Nun Aleph or Nun Beis?
That's a good question. As far as I know, it's Nun Beis.
The
It
submarine.
is Nun Aleph. I think it's Nun Beis.
Who made another one, German or
It
Swedish?
was after the Knesset looking.
You served in the Swedish Navy?
No, in the army.
Ah, the army.
These were, these are
Maybe we should sing that.
I saw pictures of it, look vintage.
Yeah.
It is.
This is what comes from putting women in submarines.
It's okay. I said no.
We take this out of the...
What?
We're live.
Oh, we're live.
Chaim, guys, that's the middle of his knee. Yeah, Chaim.
Chaim Ubocha.
So we have to learn that there has to be a yichud between Gafni and Ruchni. No longer a dichotomy, it has to be. there were the Mittler Rebbe, as I said, when they were taking the Mittler Rebbe into the imprisonment in the city of Vitebsk, on the way they stopped overnight in a place called Dobromsville, or something in Russian, Dobromsville. And they locked up the Mittler Rebbe in a post office in the door of the village. And originally they had been promised that they would look after the Mittler Rebbe in a sort of posh way on the whole journey. But unfortunately those who were behind the whole plot, they mixed in and they sort of changed the attitude of the captors. And so therefore they took a more, what you might call, changed attitude to the Mittler Rebbe. And they locked him up in a door. And at that time of the year, it's very cold in Russia. So the door wasn't closed down to the ground. It was locked, but it didn't come all the way down to the ground. So under the door, they blew a cold draft the whole time. And so the whole night, the Mittler Rebbe was exposed to a draft. And he was very weak, as well known. The Mittler Rebbe, you know, he didn't live in the Gafni life. So he was very frail, and he caught a chill. He got a very bad chill, and he never actually got over that chill. That's what eventually was his stalkers was due to him. But in the imprisonment, he got better incomparably because he was able to say the chassidus, like we said. And the doctors fought to understand what was the problem. And they found that even though they could diagnose that he had a bronchitic, a condition, but they got him incomparably better just from saying the chassidus. And it was only later, when he got back to the Beit, that he got a further chill, and that's what led to, in light of what he already had, that's what led to this stuff. That's why the first Yud Kislev didn't get kept, because a year after the first time, he was unfortunately ill and he passed away. That's why it. But we see that every Indian, how did the Mittler Rebbe actually get out? How did he actually? How was he, successful in getting out? He wrote to the general who was. You see, in those days, the situation in Russia was still like it was in medieval Europe. Even in England, it was like that. That you had the king, and then the king had these cronies of his. When I say crony, he had these barons and these high nobles. How do you call it? Yochastika people by him. That he used to spread them out and give them like areas that they were in charge of. And they used to have a castle, and they used to run the whole area pretty much in absolute rule, because they were given permission by the king to be like the dictators of that whole area. In the area where the Mittler Rebbe was imprisoned, in Vitebsk, which is the name of a whole area, was a general from the army. And he looked at first glance to be a very Negotiable etiquette. He looked, into the whole Russian Holy Kiev, and so they didn't know how they're going to convince. He had absolute rule. He could let the Mittler Rebbe out if he wanted. He didn't need to get the okay from the king. Later, the whole thing did reach the king. Of the actual getting out, temporarily at least, was on the part of the general. And then ultimately the okay was given from the royal family. So they were trying to work out how to convince this general. So the Mittler Rebbe wrote a letter to this guy in Russian Craters. Yeah, and they had a whole business to translate it into Russian. And the Mittler Rebbe explains to him the whole 10 spheres and how he's really connected spheres of Malchus. And he describes the whole thing. And there's a big diagram in the text of all the spheres and how they're arranged. And it became a whole document in Chabad literature. It's called Bad Kodesh. It's called Kuntres Bad Kodesh, yeah. And it's very learned all about the spheres and how they, and only when the king of a country conducts himself with proper justice and everything, then he gains assistance. He joins himself up with Hashem, and he becomes like a vehicle for spirits of Malchus. But if he doesn't, then he ruins everything, and the whole country can have a feeling, including him. And so the Mittler Rebbe writes this whole big area to this guy. So everybody thought that there's no chance. What's this guy know about Elikus, about Esser spirits, about the requirement of a king like Hashem and the whole thing? It's amazing document. Yet nonetheless, I gave this to this Goyce general, and he said he wants to translate it into Russian. So of course they did, with tremendous effort. It's very learned. Yeah. They got it over into Russian, and they give it to him, and he read, and he was very impressed. Yeah. He was very taken by how much he actually understood is a question. But he got sort of the point, the sort of the main point, that he's only a representative of the Malchus Shalamayla, and Ochamvei, if he doesn't do what Malchus Shalamayla wants him to do, he apparently got that point, you understand? So he sort of revealed readiness to rehear and re-examine the whole case at the Mittler Rebbe. So what happened was that before he could sort of get into the whole thing again, the Mittler Rebbe's daughter, the Mittler Rebbe had daughters, and they heard that things were changing, for the better. So they came in without official to see this general, and they started weeping, and they started, saying how great their father was, and how could you do this, and they mamish wept and cried in loud voices in front of this general. So he, as tough as he made himself out to be, but he was affected. He was very touched by the way they spoke and the way they said. So he said he doesn't need to re-examine the whole case. He hears from what they say and from reading them that the Mittler Rebbe is a great righteous man. That's what he said. So he said there's no reason why we should keep him anymore. That's for sure, that he's not, accusable of all that these guys say, and he let him free. And Davki, because he sort of let him free almost informally, that's how it got back to the king, and the king went into the whole thing with his advisors, and they saw that he's got a good point. At the beginning, they were angry with him. They were sort of, what's this? Letting him out without a final, re-examination of the case. But eventually they said the same thing, that Mittler Rebbe must be a great righteous man. Yeah, that's what they said. So you see from that the Gashmias is affected by the Ruchnias, and that ultimately the Ruchnias and the Gashmias join together and they become one continuation, one of the other. The Mittler Rebbe wrote this Megushim Dikagoy, he wrote him a beautiful Maimah Chassidus, and he gave it to him, they translated it, and the guy was affected. He was very moved by the whole thing. So it just shows you that you must never think that if you come with the truth and with the emes al piter, that you're not going to have any effect. You must have an effect. somewhere along the line, it has an effect. And that's what the Rebbe's whole point about the whole situation. That Yidden have been in now for decades, Gabi the world and Gabi the United States. The Rebbe's, if you tell them the truth, they'll be turned. At the beginning, they'll hesitate a bit, but in the end, there's police effect that they will come out on the side. That was the Rebbe's whole message. Many times, I heard it from the Rebbe many times. He said, all you gotta do is just tell them the truth. Al-Pi Torah, Kamoishahu. And eventually, it's all gonna be good. You follow? And so what do? They go and they give in, and they make Camp David, and they make this, and they make that. That's such bad news. Yeah, Chaim. It's all hidden in that what we learned tonight. It's all hidden, the most unbelievable emissary of the Rebbe, It's just so amazing, unbelievable. The pure, the what they call in English the cook, of the Rebbe, whatever. So unbelievable. It's all eloquent. Chaim, guys. Chaim. The same with Moshiach. Yeah, the Rebbe knows what is the only destiny of the world. The Alter Rebbe writes it in Tanya, that the whole world is only created for that purpose. That's all it was created for. Dear Eloi Taktenim. Dear Eloi is Bolabot Taktenim. That was all. So all you got to do is work for a Dear Taktenim. And then everything will come good. And that's what we find by the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash should go down sometimes if there was trouble with the government, and he wouldn't have any appointment with one of the big ministers. And he would just walk into the building and so they would say, wait a minute, who are you? And he would just say, I have something very important for the minister. And he would just walk past all the, So they would say, they saw he looked very sort of, who's this guy? So he gets up to the secretary of the big minister, and she would say, but you can't, there's no way, this is not according, you don't have an appointment, you can't say, you can't talk to the minister. And he would just ignore her and open the door and walk in. And he would say, listen, here I am. And he would say, oh, the Rabbiner Schneerson, Shalom Aleichem. And in the end, they would be mevatel the Gazette. And that's why the Rebbe Maharaj is called L'chatchila Riva. Because L'chatchila Riva means you just jump over, you don't reckon with it. We have to give good hope, Be'ez Hashem. And Be'ez Hashem, this week we have Pinchas Eliyahu, Simcha, Be'ez Hashem. And it should all be an union of Gafni and Ruchni as an elevation in the highest possible way. And it'll bring down the revelation of Moshiach, Be'ez Hashem. Be'ez Hashem.
We were waiting for that.
Very special guy.
We all needed a lot of patience.
We have the witness of a Chavruta. Chaim, guys. And Be'ez Hashem, just like we're learning, Yaakov Avinu built a house. And he built it despite difficulties, despite heavy difficulties. He built up the whole Klal Yisrael.
So when you go to sleep tonight, you should put stones around your head.
Yeah, I put the talit over there.
So that's it, guys. We have to. My taxi is coming. So.
Shabbos.
Yeah, Chabad Tsfat by Vayetze.